For 20 years since our marriage, I thought I had done my best to serve my husband and mother-in-law. But then my husband bluntly told me,
"Starting next month, I'm living with Mom and my sister."
And you, a useless parasite, should go back to your parents' house.
That was the final straw. My mother-in-law's insults finally woke me up. Understood. I'll be leaving then. I left the house the next day after saying those words. However, when my husband and his family found out that I had taken all the furniture and appliances and had moved into a brand new condo worth $1 million, they were furious and came rushing over. My name is Grace Kelly, 48 years old. I work in the accounting department of an HVAC company. I live with my husband Lucas, who is 2 years younger than me, and his mother. We don't have any kids. The first time Lucas and I met was when he joined the large real estate development company where I was working. At first, I just thought of him as a typical modern guy, watching as he charmed both the female employees and the older male staff with his good looks. For some reason, though, Lucas said,
"The other accounting folks are a bit hard to approach. But Grace, you're just as warm and friendly as your name suggests."
From then on, he started handing almost all the documents he needed to submit to accounting directly to me. But whether it was because he was naturally careless or just easygoing, I wasn't sure, even when I pointed out mistakes or last-minute submissions.
"Oh, I'm really sorry about that."
He'd always apologize right away, but no matter how many times I reminded him, he didn't really change, and I often ended up staying late to fix things.
He's either really good at this or just plain sly.
I kept a smile on the outside, but inside, I couldn't help feeling a bit frustrated every time. However, when he noticed me struggling with the standard office supplies, he'd often drop by with some stationery he recommended. Seeing how thoughtful he was, I couldn't help but think that he wasn't just sucking up. In the end, I figured I was just as charmed by him as everyone else, and kept covering for him. Our relationship took a sudden turn when I fell ill on the train during my commute. I had been working late every day during a busy period, and I guess the rush hour crowd was too much for me. I got dizzy and couldn't stand it anymore. I barely made it to my stop, but once I sat down on a bench at the station, I couldn't move and had to fight off the nausea. Lucas noticed me, and, despite my protests that I didn't want to dirty his suit, he ignored me and, under the station staff's guidance, carried me to the station's medical room. After that, I took some medicine I had on me and lay down for a while. Eventually, the dizziness subsided, and when I called the office to let them know, my boss told me to go home and rest. To top it off, they ordered Lucas, who had stayed with me, to make sure I got home safely. So despite my reluctance, he ended up escorting me home. The next day, I returned to work as usual, apologized to my boss and colleagues, and then visited Lucas in the sales department to apologize to him and his boss.
I feel like I caused you a lot of trouble, and I'd like to do something to thank you.
"Well, in that case, how about you treat me to dinner this Friday? I'm a bit short on cash right before payday."
I couldn't help but laugh at his straightforward request, and agreed. Of course, I only intended it to be a one-time meal, but
Now that I've been paid, let me return the favor and treat you this time.
before I knew it, we kept taking turns treating each other to meals, and eventually, people around us started assuming we were dating. But I was the only one who rushed to deny it. Lucas, on the other hand, was as laid back as ever.
Well, you don't have to deny it so vehemently. I don't mind.
And just like that, we ended up being seen as an official couple. 2 years later, when I turned 28,
Maybe it's time we got married. It'd probably put everyone at ease.
and so, we got married. I had planned to continue working, but Lucas unexpectedly asked me to quit, saying it would be awkward for us to both work at the same company.
You're not getting any younger, so maybe it'd be wise to focus on having kids first.
My mother-in-law also insisted, so I resigned. As for our living arrangements after the wedding, I had hoped we could live in this area if we were both working, but then the idea of living in his family's place came up. It turns out Lucas's father had passed away 10 years ago, and since Lucas's older sister, Jennifer, got married and moved out 3 years ago, it had just been Lucas and his mom living together. As the eldest son, I figured we'd live with his mother eventually, but I didn't expect it to happen right from the start. However, since Lucas moving out would leave his mother alone, she strongly opposed living separately. I was persuaded that living with her would save us rent, so we began our married life under the same roof. At first, everything was peaceful and uneventful. Lucas's mom, who graduated from a top university, landed a job at a major trading company, and naturally, her husband was an elite too, often boasted about Jennifer, who followed in her footsteps. Although Lucas was the eldest son, his mother didn't seem very interested in him. Jennifer, who had moved into a new condo about 30 minutes away by train, often begged her mother to help with the housework.
Mom, please. I'm so busy every day. I can't keep up with the chores.
Her mother, delighted to be needed by her beloved daughter, wasn't reluctant at all.
That girl is completely helpless without me.
She would regularly visit Jennifer's condo and take care of all the cooking, cleaning, and laundry like a housekeeper. But when she needed extra help, or when Jennifer took a day off to enjoy afternoon tea at their favorite hotel with her mother, I would sometimes get roped into helping as well. Still, since Lucas's mom rarely interfered with our lives, living together was much easier than I had expected. With that in mind, I didn't think it was a big deal to occasionally help out at Jennifer's place. However, one day, Jennifer and her mom decided to take a one-night trip to a nearby spa for some rest. During that time, they asked me to take care of Jennifer's place by myself.
Jennifer said she doesn't want her husband to be inconvenienced while we're gone, so as soon as we leave, please take care of the cleaning, laundry, and prepare some meals for him to have while we're away.
After seeing them off, I took the key they gave me and went to Jennifer's condo to start on the chores. I quickly tackled the cleaning, laundry, and ironing as usual. But when I was about to put away the dishes I had prepared at my place, I remembered something Jennifer had mentioned.
Make sure to chill his favorite beer. He gets grumpy if it's not there.
When I checked the fridge, there wasn't a single beer in sight. Only the mineral water and beauty drinks Jennifer drank every night. Ugh, I should have checked before going shopping. I muttered in frustration, but it was too late. I had no choice but to head to the nearest grocery store, but unfortunately, they didn't carry the brand of beer I was looking for. The beer Jennifer's husband liked was a Belgian import, so it wasn't as easy to find as domestic brands. Still, I thought, if this store doesn't have it, I'll just find it at another one. However, even after visiting a few other stores nearby, including a local store that sold groceries, I still couldn't find that specific brand. To make matters worse, this was before map apps were common, so I have no idea where the stores were in the unfamiliar neighborhood around Jennifer's condo. Panicking, I ran around but only wasted time without finding the beer. I ended up hailing a taxi and heading to the nearest department store, where I finally found the beer in the basement liquor section. By the time I got back to the condo, it was nearly 5 p.m. When I entered Jennifer's place, planning to put the beer in the fridge and head home, I saw her husband, Daniel, standing in the living room. Daniel, you're back early today," I stammered as I tried to clean up the apron and bag of food containers left on the sofa, but Daniel started questioning me.
"What's going on here? My wife told me she hired someone to take care of the housework."
According to Daniel, he had originally planned to bring his mother to live with them to help out since both he and Jennifer worked full-time.
"Our situation is the same as Jennifer's. My dad passed away, and as an only child, my mom has no one else to rely on. So I asked if she could move in to help with the chores."
If you do that, I'll want my mom to move in too. It's unfair and selfish to favor your mother over mine.
Apparently, Jennifer insisted on it. After discussing it, they decided not to rely on either of their parents and instead hire someone to help with the housework, splitting the cost equally. But in reality, Jennifer had secretly been calling on her mom and me to do the housework instead. When Daniel found out the truth, he immediately called Jennifer. Realizing she was in trouble, Jennifer and her mom rushed back from the spa, but it quickly escalated into a huge argument with Daniel demanding an explanation. As I stood there listening, unable to leave, it became clear that Jennifer had been using the money Daniel gave her for housekeeping services on her own spa treatments and outings with her mom. Jennifer's mom managed to smooth things over by apologizing and promising to be more careful in the future. However, not long after, it came to light that Jennifer had been giving expensive gifts to a handsome stylist at their regular hair salon and going out for drinks with him afterward. Given what had happened before, Daniel was furious. He refused to listen to his mother-in-law's attempts to mediate and ended up divorcing Jennifer. Since they had been married for just 5 years, rented their condo, and had no significant assets, the divorce was finalized quickly and without any alimony. But Jennifer couldn't stand the rumors at work, so when she was scouted, she took the opportunity to switch companies as soon as the divorce was finalized. Unfortunately, the fresh start didn't go as planned, and Jennifer struggled to build her career at the new job. She and her mom started taking their frustrations out on me.
This is all Grace's fault. If she had handled things better, none of this would have happened. She's the one who tripped me up in life.
They began unfairly blaming me for everything. To make matters worse, at a time when I was struggling to have a child, Lucas's mom cruelly said,
I was looking forward to seeing my grandchild, but I guess it's for the best. I wouldn't have loved a grandchild from a woman like you anyway.
The sheer unfairness of it all brought me to tears.
If you're going to cry and regret your mistakes now, why couldn't you just handle things the way Jennifer and Mom wanted? We're the ones who should be crying because of your mistakes, Grace.
But what hurt more than anything was Lucas's reaction. He looked at me in exasperation as I cried. Hearing that made me feel utterly crushed, like my world was spinning out of control. It showed me that even though he knew everything, Lucas still believed I was the one at fault. In other words, I realized that I had no one on my side in this house. With that realization, I began thinking about divorce, but as a housewife who had quit my job, I couldn't easily voice that option. I could return to my parents' house, but with my brother and his family living nearby, it would be awkward to suddenly show up unemployed. Plus, finding a new job in a rural area that would allow me to support myself seemed nearly impossible. So, I swallowed my pride and decided to focus on regaining financial independence first. Secretly, without letting Lucas's mom or Lucas know, I used my old connections to find a part-time accounting job. I pleaded with my mother-in-laws in a tearful and modest manner to get their permission, and I started working the following month. I feel guilty being a housewife when I haven't been able to have kids, so at least let me work part-time to contribute to the household. Of course, if I slacked on the housework, they would likely complain and tell me to quit. So I pushed myself even when I was tired or unwell. I didn't cut corners at work either, seizing every opportunity to improve and striving to advance. After 2 years of part-time work, I was promoted to a full-time position. 5 years later, I was invited by my boss to join him in a new venture, which led to my current job at an HVAC company, where I continued to work hard. But just recently, on the 20th anniversary of our marriage, Lucas approached me after dinner while I was washing the dishes in the kitchen and asked me to come to the living room because he wanted to talk. It was unusual for him to show interest in anything I did around the house, as he usually spent time only with his mom, so I found it odd. When I went to the living room, before I could even sit down, Lucas announced,
This is already decided, but starting next month, I'm living with Mom and Jennifer.
I was stunned, and before I could respond, Lucas's mom added,
Jennifer's health has taken a turn because of the stress at her new job, so she's taking a break and recuperating at home. It'd be best for her to relax here, and since there's no need for a useless outsider to stay, you should just go back to your parents' house.
She came right up to me and said,
Get lost, you freeloading parasite.
as if to mock me, waved her hand dismissively. Lucas and his mom were smirking, watching my reaction, but inside, I was actually relieved, thinking, this makes things easier. I smiled slowly at the two of them and said, I understand, I'll be out by tomorrow afternoon. Seeing their stunned faces, I quietly returned to my room. The next morning, after seeing Lucas off to work, I waited for the second-hand goods buyers I had contacted the night before to arrive. Lucas's mom looked shocked to see strange men at the house, but we got straight to work without any concern for her reaction. We started with the kitchen, removing the refrigerator, the microwave, the stand mixer, the instant pot, her favorite soda maker, and the dining set. Of course, I didn't forget the countertop accessories either. Next, in the living room, I took the TV, the AC, the hard-working robot vacuum, the AI speaker, the off-season heated carpet, and the sofa set. Then, it was on to the washer and dryer, Lucas's PC desk, and bookshelf, and I even added the AC, beds, and dressers from Lucas's and his mom's rooms. The estimate was finished in no time. When the movers started making a call, my mother-in-law finally snapped out of it and rushed over in a panic.
What on earth do you think you're doing, barging into our bedrooms like this?
She shrieked, but I just smiled and replied, well, since I'm nothing but a freeloading parasite, I figured the least I could do was take care of my belongings before I leave. Just then, the additional movers arrived. And in no time, they started hauling out all the furniture and appliances listed. My mother-in-law was so overwhelmed by the swift and efficient work that she could only pace around helplessly. For the finishing touch, the movers even removed the LED lighting from every room before leaving. What was left were Lucas's PC and bedding on the floor, along with his mom's cosmetics piled in a corner. My mother-in-law, still reeling, started shouting again.
Wait a minute. Do you think you'll get away with this?
I'll leave the rest to my lawyer. I then grabbed the suitcase I had packed the night before and walked out of the house. A week later, after receiving a call from my lawyer, Lucas, his mom, and Jennifer all stormed into the lawyer's office that very same day. When I arrived a bit later, they immediately started yelling,
How dare you show up late after summoning us here?
I never summoned you. I simply informed you that all future negotiations would go through me, and you showed up without an appointment.
My lawyer retorted sharply. Lucas, unable to handle the pressure, immediately shrank back. His mom, however, stepped in, ready to fight.
Since we're all here, let's talk. You left like a thief in the night, so there's no way you can come back now. But if you grovel and apologize, maybe we can reconsider.
She glared at me as she finished, while Jennifer and Lucas nodded vigorously beside her. Did they really think I would jump at the chance to return to such a miserable situation? How naive. I gave a slight nod to my lawyer, who then calmly began.
Grace has no intention of returning. Moving forward, we'll discuss signing the divorce papers, dividing the assets, and negotiating alimony.
The three of them were stunned into silence for a moment before they all started shouting at once.
No divorce.
Dividing assets and alimony. How dare you?
Who do you think you are?
When things started getting out of hand, my lawyer let out a loud, intimidating cough, which finally quieted the three of them.
The divorce is a done deal. If you don't agree, we'll take this to mediation or court.
The lawyer calmly stated they were about to raise their voices again. But another stern cough from the lawyer silenced them. After some hushed discussions among themselves, they reluctantly signed the divorce papers without further resistance. But when it came to discussing the division of assets and alimony, their attitudes changed dramatically.
You're seriously asking for asset division. You were nothing but a parasite, barely making any money with your part-time job, and now you want to share. How shameless.
We should be the ones asking for alimony for having to put up with such a failure as a wife. There's no way we're paying you anything.
They began hurling insults at me. That's when I pulled out copies of my household ledger and bank statements from the past 5 years. At first, they didn't seem to understand, but as the lawyer explained the documents, their faces grew pale. The reason was simple. I had been covering almost all of the household expenses for the past 5 years, totaling around $3,200 per month.
That's impossible. I've been putting $1,500 into the household account every month.
Lucas protested, but the truth was that the $1,500 he deposited was almost entirely used up by his and his mother's credit card payments, totaling around $1,420. In essence, the money he deposited went in one hand and out the other. Meanwhile, my salary, totaling $3,200, had been used to pay for the mortgage, Lucas's and his mom's car loans, groceries, utilities, and all the other household expenses.
In the 5 years since Grace became the head of accounting at her current company, she has contributed nearly $190,000 to the household. Despite this significant contribution, you've labeled her a parasite. Quite the treatment, don't you think?
The three of them frantically flipped through the copies, but the lawyer's words were irrefutable. Realizing they were at a disadvantage, my mother-in-law suddenly softened her tone.
Well, see, Grace, we were once husband and wife, mother and daughter-in-law, and sister-in-law. Let's not fight and just part ways peacefully.
Yes, that's right. Besides, I may have lost my temper and sold all the furniture and appliances last time. Maybe we should both act like adults and end things amicably. I replied, thinking I had them right where I wanted them. I asked the lawyer to draft the divorce settlement, including clauses that waived both parties' rights to asset division and alimony. To be extra cautious, we even went to a notary public to make it official. After signing, Lucas and I shook hands, ending our 20-year marriage. But that wasn't the end of the story. 2 months later, after we parted ways outside the notary's office, I started receiving a flood of messages from Lucas and his mom on the one social media account I hadn't blocked. At first, I ignored them, but the messages kept coming, day and night, becoming increasingly annoying. When I heard they had even shown up at the lawyer's office demanding to see me, I decided to meet them one last time to settle things. This time, I arrived a bit early, but they had apparently gotten there even earlier. Their intimidating demeanor was the same as before, but their appearance seemed a bit more shabby. As soon as they saw me, Lucas was the first to shout.
Did you really buy that new condo near the station with a price tag over $1 million?
I had deliberately chosen a property not affiliated with Lucas's company. But it seems word got out anyway. Lucas's mom quickly joined in, yelling,
Where did you hide that kind of money? If it's marital property, it belongs to both of us, you cheat.
Good grief, what a racket. I reminded them about the notarized agreement we had signed, which clearly stated that both parties had waived their rights to asset division. Lucas and his mom turned pale again, clearly having forgotten about it, but quickly recovered and started shouting again.
That was a trick. You must have hidden the money. It's your fault.
The funds used to purchase Grace's condo came from the profits she made by exercising stock options she received when she joined her current company. These were non-transferable stock options, so they are not subject to asset division. If you still want to contest this, we can settle it in court.
My lawyer stated calmly on my behalf. Lucas fell silent. But his mother, still fuming, shot back.
Oh, so that's your attitude? Fine, we'll take this to court if we have to.
In that case, I'll be filing for alimony as well. It wasn't exactly easy dealing with the emotional damage of you openly searching for a new partner before the divorce was even finalized. I said with a sweet smile, and my mother-in-law's face finally paled. I then turned to Jennifer, who had been sitting in stunned silence. And of course, I'll be seeking damages from you as well, Jennifer. I've kept all the evidence of the insults and harassment you've directed at me ever since your divorce. I stacked the voice recorders, USB drives, and printed screenshots of messages I had brought with me on the table, and Jennifer's face turned even paler. For the final blow, I added, "By the way, Jennifer, do you know a woman named Miranda Lambert? She happens to be the daughter of my direct supervisor." I looked Jennifer straight in the eye with a smile, and her face turned as white as a sheet. The truth was, I had informed my current boss about some of the issues related to this situation, as I didn't want the drama to interfere with my work. It turns out my boss, the executive director Adam Lambert, has a daughter named Miranda. I had met her a few times at company barbecues, a lovely, cheerful woman. Unfortunately, Miranda had been subjected to severe harassment by her superior at her previous job, and she was now on medical leave due to mental health issues. And who was the one responsible for that harassment? None other than Jennifer. The fact is, Adam divorced Miranda's mother when Miranda was in elementary school, and since then, both he and Miranda have been distant from her mother. Knowing that Miranda didn't have any older women in her life, Adam asked me to take her out for meals and shopping to help lift her spirits, and I gladly agreed. During one of our conversations, Miranda mentioned Jennifer's name, which shocked me. That's when I learned that Jennifer's so-called medical leave was a lie. In reality, she was placed on mandatory leave because her treatment of Miranda had become a problem at her workplace. I knew I had to act quickly to finalize the divorce, or Jennifer would likely end up moving back in with my mother-in-law. which would have made my situation even more unbearable, both financially and emotionally. So I had begun preparing, and when Lucas and his mother tried to kick me out, it was the perfect opportunity. First, I made a big show of selling off all the furniture and appliances. Then, I had the notarized settlement drawn up, where both parties waived rights to asset division and alimony, knowing full well about the stock options. Given Lucas's and his mom's spending habits, there wasn't much in the way of savings. If we had gone through a strict asset division, I would have ended up losing more. As for alimony, even if I won in court, there was no guarantee I would ever see a cent. So I used the household expenses as leverage to make them waive their claims. It was only now that Lucas, his mom, and Jennifer finally realized the full extent of their foolishness. They had thought that by getting rid of me, the parasite, they could go back to living as a happy family, but now they trudged away, shoulders slumped in defeat. Their downfall was swift and brutal. Lucas's mom, as I had pointed out, wasted no time bragging to friends, relatives, and even mere acquaintances that she had successfully gotten rid of me. She even started arranging matchmaking meetings for Lucas.
I'm going to make sure my son finds a nice girl, unlike that useless wife who couldn't even give me grandchildren. If you know of any good women, please help set them up with my son.
However, the people she approached with these ridiculous requests only laughed at her behind her back.
Looking for a new partner before the divorce is even finalized. That's just not right.
She's delusional if she thinks her son is some sort of catch with those kinds of conditions.
The criteria his mom set for a suitable wife were utterly ridiculous.
First, she should be in her early 20s. If she's any older, she'll start spouting nonsense about equality in marriage and other annoying things.
As if that wasn't enough, she went on with her outrageous demands.
Of course, she'll have to cut ties with her family, but not before handing over her inheritance. So, some wealth and financial stability are necessary too. And wouldn't it be great if she could see a doctor to confirm her ability to have children?
Her words left everyone around her in shock.
Oh, and of course, she has to be tall, stylish, and beautiful. That goes without saying, so make sure of that.
She wrapped up her list, completely oblivious to the cold stares she was receiving. Naturally, no one brought any marriage proposals to her. Frustrated, she began bombarding people with phone calls and messages. However, she was either politely turned down with responses like, "I'm afraid I don't know anyone who meets your criteria," or simply ignored. Soon, word about the messy divorce with me spread among relatives, friends, and neighbors, leading to whispered gossip about the shameful mother and son. Having always acted arrogantly, Lucas's mom couldn't handle the disdainful looks from others, and eventually withdrew into the house, refusing to go out. There were even rumors that people had begun hearing shouting, angry outbursts, and the sound of dishes breaking from within the house. In the past, whenever something upset her, she would take it out on me or indulge in shopping sprees to blow off steam. With me, her punching bag gone, and unable to shop or take short trips to relieve stress, she seemed to be venting her frustrations by lashing out at home. As for Lucas, he had left all the household management to me since we got married. Even after the lawyer clearly explained things to him, he was still in denial.
If she managed to cover the household expenses, I can do it easily if I really try.
But his mom and Jennifer, who were supposed to help with the housework, found it all too troublesome and abandoned their responsibilities. Meals became exclusively takeout or deli food, and cleaning and laundry were left to housekeeping services. It's easy to imagine how the rest went. Within 2 months, the household finances were in ruins. Lucas quickly confiscated the credit card he had given his mom for household expenses, and they resorted to a diet of toast and coffee for breakfast, only bananas for lunch, and discounted items for dinner. Laundry was done only when there were no clean clothes left, and cleaning was limited to the most visible areas. Living this unbalanced, unhygienic lifestyle soon took its toll. Lucas, who had once been praised for looking younger than his age, became overweight and unhealthy, with greasy skin and hair. His former cool guy image was nowhere to be found. Complaints from clients poured in, claiming he was no longer fit for sales work, where cleanliness was essential. As a result, Lucas was demoted to a back office role.
I've come to my senses. I was deceived by my mother and sister. I want to cut ties with those toxic women and start over with Grace. Please tell her that.
In a desperate attempt to reconcile, he called and emailed my lawyer, saying,
I've been instructed not to pass on any messages, regardless of their content.
As we had discussed beforehand, the lawyer firmly refused and reminded him that any further attempts to contact me would result in a police report if he showed up at my workplace or new home. That put an end to any further contact. As for Jennifer, who played a major role in this saga, Miranda was furious when I told her everything that had happened.
What is wrong with that woman? I thought she might have learned something after what happened with me. But to blame her own divorce on you and keep harassing you. She's just a terrible person through and through.
Miranda contacted her company, where she had been on leave, and informed them of her intention to resign. She was called in and asked for the reason. Miranda explained that, while the matter was personal and not directly related to her work, she felt the need to share everything with HR and management. After seeing the shocked expressions of those listening, she continued,
Of course, I'm sure I made mistakes too in what happened with me. I thought that if she had genuinely reflected on it, we could both work together for the company's benefit. But now, I see that's impossible. Working under her again would be a mental health disaster for me.
She handed in her resignation and left the company smoothly. Miranda then transitioned to a remote role at a competitor in the same industry, allowing her to work while she continued to recover. Meanwhile, the sudden resignation of Miranda, who was supposed to be on leave, caused quite a stir within her former company. Rumors began to spread that Miranda had resigned because the harassment from Jennifer continued even outside of work, and things quickly spiraled out of control. Many of Miranda's colleagues and younger staff, who admired her and considered her a leader, started leaving the company, fearing for their own futures. The company's upper management, alarmed by the loss of promising young talent, held emergency meetings, and issued an ultimatum to Jennifer. After your suspension, you'll be transferred to a subsidiary in another state. The only acceptable response is yes. Jennifer resisted, claiming the decision was unfair, but when they hinted at termination, she had no choice but to reluctantly accept the transfer. However, by the time she arrived at the new location, word had already spread. No one was willing to befriend her, and she was left isolated, with only the bare minimum of work-related interactions. Desperate to quit and return home, she pleaded with Lucas and his mom, but they harshly rejected her.
We can't have you coming back unemployed. Do you even realize who's responsible for this mess?
That's right. You're the real parasite and bad luck charm.
Now, she's just a shadow of her former self, working quietly in a corner of the office, completely cut off from everyone. As for me, after finalizing my divorce from Lucas and resolving the entire ordeal, I took Miranda's advice and remarried after living with Adam for about 6 months. Honestly, after 20 years of marriage to Lucas, I had no intention of remarrying.
My dad may be older, but I think he's a real catch if I do say so myself.
Miranda said, gently encouraging me to take the step. Looking back, I realize that in the short time I've spent with Adam and Miranda, I've laughed more than I did in my entire 20 years with Lucas. It's a true blessing to live freely, as myself, and to have a partner to share that with. Sometimes, I regret not making this decision sooner, but dwelling on the past and wasting the time I have left would be the real tragedy. From now on, I'm going to cherish the peaceful life I have with my new husband and daughter,